Walk into James's apartment and you'll notice a 2015 Toyota Camry key hanging near the entrance, a rice cooker humming quietly on the counter, and an investment account he last touched only to bump up his monthly contribution. His furniture gets the job done. His phone is 2 generations old. There's a meal prep container in the fridge and a sticky note on his laptop that reads plus 1% every January, a tradition he started in 2018. Walk into Ryan's place and the first thing you see is a $4,200 espresso machine sitting on the floor, still wrapped in plastic. Next to it, 3 unopened Amazon boxes. His phone has back-to-back notifications from a crypto trading app, and there's a valet receipt on the counter, $52 a day, because the $18 garage requires a 7-minute walk he never has time for. Ryan has been telling himself he'll check his credit card statement this weekend for the past 11 weeks. Same city, same industry, similar paychecks. The difference in their salaries doesn't come close to explaining what I'm about to show you. James is 37. He has $360,000 in investments. Ryan is 37. He has $9,400, a car loan he mentally justifies every single morning, and a brokerage account down 31% from a can't-miss tip that made perfect sense at the time. This isn't a story about income. It's a story about 10 habits so ordinary, so completely unglamorous, that most people walk right past them while waiting for the breakthrough that never comes. My name is Alex. I spend an unreasonable amount of time crunching the numbers on why some people quietly escape financial pressure while others remain stuck on the same treadmill for decades. If you've ever reached the end of a month where nothing catastrophic happened and still found yourself wondering where the money went, stay with me. Today we find the answer. Before the list, there's a myth worth dismantling, one that financial media keeps selling and people keep buying. The myth: you haven't built wealth yet because you haven't found the right strategy, the right asset, the right moment to act. The implication is always the same. There's a secret out there, just beyond your current knowledge, that will finally unlock everything. A Ramsey Solutions study of over 10,000 everyday millionaires found that 79% received no inheritance. Nearly a third never earned 6 figures in a single year. Their most common professions? Engineer, teacher, accountant, not venture capitalist, not early Bitcoin buyer. It took them a median of 28 years. Not 28 years of genius, 28 years of consistent, boring behavior while compound interest quietly did the work. Habit 1. Automate your money before your brain gets a vote. Ann Scheiber worked as an IRS auditor for 23 years and retired in 1944 with $5,000 in savings. She set up automatic dividend reinvestments in blue-chip stocks, lived frugally in a small New York apartment, and essentially forgot about it. When she died in 1995 at 101, that $5,000 had grown to $22 million. She donated every dollar to a university she had never attended. Here's the mechanism behind why automation works better than discipline. Vanguard's 2025 data shows that retirement plans with automatic enrollment reach 94% participation. Plans where you voluntarily choose to save, 64%. 30 percentage points of human behavior evaporate the moment. Saving becomes a choice rather than a default. When you make it a decision, you're asking your brain to pick between something tangible today and something abstract 3 decades from now. The future loses that fight almost every single time. Auto-enrolled employees saved 12.1% of their pay in 2024. Voluntary enrollees saved 7.6%. On a $65,000 salary, that gap compounded at 10% over 30 years is roughly $430,000. Not from a smarter investment. From removing the monthly decision entirely. Research shows people demand 277% annual returns just to delay gratification by 3 months. You cannot outdiscipline that number, so stop trying. Automate the contribution. Schedule the transfer for payday. The money moves before your brain registers it. The urge to spend it never gets triggered. What this feels like when it's working. A quiet surprise every time you check your balance. You didn't feel the sacrifice. The number just kept climbing. Habit 2. Drive something paid off and mildly embarrassing. The average new car payment hit $748 a month in 2025. Dealerships make this feel manageable by stretching loans from 4 years to 6, from 6 to 7, from 7 to, and this is real, 10-year car loans that now exist. The monthly number shrinks. The total you pay explodes. The asset loses half its value before the loan is halfway done. By year 5 of a 7-year loan, most people owe more than the car is worth. That's when they trade in, roll the negative equity into a new loan, and restart the entire cycle. The vehicle stopped being transportation somewhere around year 2. Now, it's $850 a month of identity. You'll still be financing in 2032 while the thing sits in a parking lot depreciating. That same $748 a month invested in an S&P 500 index fund at 10% for 30 years becomes $1.69 million. Vern Boyle worked as a postman for 30 years. He drove a second-hand compact car he'd bought with cash, packed his lunch daily, and spent his weekends gardening. When he passed, his family discovered he had quietly accumulated $2.3 million in index funds. The modest car wasn't a sign of struggle. It was evidence of priorities. The car payment is the most expensive status purchase in modern life. And most of the people making it genuinely cannot afford what they're paying. Habit 3. Cook at home like your future depends on it, because it does. Let's check back in on James and Ryan. James meal preps twice a week. Roughly $90 at the grocery store covers most of his meals. Ryan orders delivery 4 nights a week, grabs lunch near his office daily, and hits a restaurant every Friday. Ryan spends close to $950 a month on food. James spends $390. That $560 monthly gap, invested at 10% for 25 years, is approximately $735,000. From a rice cooker and a slightly dull Sunday afternoon, Americans now spend 55% of their food budget outside the home, a record. The average home-cooked meal costs $4.50 per serving. The average restaurant meal costs $22. Millionaires in the Ramsey study spent $400 a month on groceries and $190 eating out. The national average flips that ratio entirely. Nobody talks about this as a wealth decision because it feels too small. It's just dinner. But dinner, repeated every Tuesday for 25 years, is $735,000, one meal prep session at a time. Habit 4. Buy less house than the bank will approve. The bank's approval limit is not a recommendation. It is the maximum amount the institution believes you can sustain without immediately defaulting. That is a completely different number from what you can comfortably afford, and the gap between the two is where people spend the next 3 decades feeling quietly squeezed. A household earning $100,000. That holds housing costs at 25% of income instead of 35%, frees up $10,000 annually. At 10% over 30 years, that's $1.8 million, not from a superior investment, but from buying the second-best house instead of the best one. Thomas Stanley spent decades studying this. Wealthy accumulators consistently lived in neighborhoods where they weren't the most affluent person on the street. High earners who appeared wealthy often had stunning homes and almost nothing else. The house wasn't the reward. It was the reason they had nothing left. What financial margin actually feels like. The HVAC fails. Fine. The car needs brakes. Fine. You don't run the numbers at 2 a.m. hoping nothing else breaks this month. That ability to absorb a setback without a crisis, that is financial security. Most people quietly trade it away for a kitchen they love. Habit 5. Track every dollar like it has somewhere better to be. 86% of Americans say they follow a budget. 84% of those people regularly exceed it. What we've built is a culture of people who have a number, feel guilty about it, spend past it anyway, and still describe themselves as someone who budgets. That is not budgeting. That is having a figure you feel bad about after the fact, and it does exactly nothing. Tracking isn't about restriction, it's about visibility. When you actually see where the money goes, you start noticing trades you never consciously made. The $360 in forgotten subscriptions, the $580 in convenience fees disguised as miscellaneous, the $200 in bank charges on an account you should have switched out of 3 years ago. You cannot make deliberate decisions about money you're not watching. Most people aren't watching. They find out because the end-of-month number is always smaller than expected, and they can never quite explain the shortfall. Tracking explains it. Habit 6. Invest every raise before your lifestyle finds out. A $5,000 raise adds maybe $300 a month to your take-home pay. Within 90 days, your spending has quietly upgraded to match. A slightly nicer apartment, a more convenient parking spot, lunch out instead of packed. Nothing you can specifically name. The money just absorbed. The mechanism is hedonic adaptation. Every new income level becomes the new normal within about 3 months. The $180 dinner feels special the first time. By the 15th time, it's just a Tuesday that happens to be expensive and you can't remember when that became the baseline. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. The moment a raise is confirmed before the first new paycheck arrives, increase your automated retirement contribution. Your lifestyle never learns what it was supposed to receive, so it never misses it. Investing half of a $5,000 annual raise for 20 years at 10% compounds to $157,000. The full raise invested $315,000 from updating your savings rate before updating your spending. Ryan got a $6,500 raise last year. He upgraded his parking situation, started buying coffee on the way in, added 2 streaming services he hasn't canceled. His savings rate didn't move. His raise is now a more expensive daily commute. James got a comparable raise. He increased his contribution by $220 a month before the first new check arrived. He noticed nothing different. His investment account did. Habit 7. Buy index funds, then do absolutely nothing. The most tedious sentence in personal finance is also, statistically, the one that beats almost every alternative. Buy a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. Automate contributions. Leave it entirely alone. What happens when people try to outperform that strategy? Dalbar's 2025 report found the average equity investor earned 16.54% in 2024. The S&P 500 returned 25.02%. That 8-4-8-point gap wasn't caused by bad luck. It was caused by trying checking, adjusting, reacting, predicting. Investors correctly predicted market direction in only 25% of quarters, worse than a coin flip. These weren't careless beginners. These were people actively paying attention, and the attention itself was the problem. The SPIVA scorecard shows that after 15 years, there is not a single fund category in which the majority of professional active managers beat their benchmark. People with research teams, Bloomberg terminals, and decades of experience cannot do it consistently. The strategy that outperforms most of them fits on a napkin. The boring option isn't the consolation prize. It is the strategy. Habit 8. Build an emergency fund like something will go wrong. It will. A 3 to 6 month emergency fund doesn't compound. It generates no interesting content. No one has ever posted about their high-yield savings account to widespread admiration. It is the least exciting financial product in existence, and it is the reason some people's financial lives survive unexpected contact with reality, and others completely unravel. 37% of American adults in 2024 couldn't cover a $400 emergency using cash, a flat tire, a medical copay, a pet that ate something dangerous on a Sunday. 1 in 3 adults puts that on a credit card, charging 22.3% interest. A $1,000 emergency, paid at minimums, costs $122 in interest just to tread water. Credit card balances hit a record $1.28 trillion by late 2025, up 66% since early 2021. Americans are financing emergencies at 22% while attempting to build wealth at 10%. You cannot do both simultaneously. The emergency fund is eating the investment. The buffer prevents the spiral. Habit 9. Be deeply skeptical of every exciting financial opportunity that comes looking for you. A Brazilian study tracked 1,600 day traders who persisted beyond 300 days, not casual experimenters, but committed ones. 97% lost money. Only 1.1% earned more than minimum wage from it. The FTC analyzed 70 MLM income disclosures. Approximately 99% of participants lost money once expenses were factored in. The marketing material shows a beach. The spreadsheet shows a debt. But this habit isn't really about day trading or MLMs. It's about the broader pattern. The crypto opportunity your colleague cannot stop discussing. The real estate deal from someone you've met twice. The stock tip from a friend of a friend who is, quote, different this time. The coaching program promising to replace your income in 90 days for $3,500. Every one of these shares the same architecture, a vivid, compelling story about the upside and the statistical reality of the downside left entirely out of the conversation. The mechanism is prospect theory. Human brains are wired to overweight low-probability, high-payoff scenarios. Social media accelerates this by making the rare success story infinitely visible, while the 99% who lost money disappear completely from the feed. The S&P 500 has never once marketed itself to you. It just returns year after year with no pitch deck required. The rule: if someone is enthusiastic about bringing you an opportunity, be proportionally cautious. Genuine wealth building is genuinely boring to explain. If it sounds exciting, that's typically the warning sign, not the signal. Habit 10. Wait 72 hours before any significant purchase. The average American spends $282 a month, $3,381 a year on impulse purchases. 68% of social media impulse buyers report regretting at least one purchase. Not most of them, just one. They've already stopped thinking about the other 30. Impulse desire has a half-life. The emotional urgency of a purchase drops sharply within 24 to 72 hours. The item that felt like a necessity at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday feels entirely optional by Friday morning. Research shows 60 to 70% of wish-listed items are never actually purchased. Most buying impulses don't survive even minor friction. The 7-2-hour rule isn't willpower. It's a timer. You're not saying no, you're saying check back in 3 days. Most of the time, 3 days arrive, and the answer becomes no without a single argument. Have your impulse spending. That's $141 saved monthly, $1,690 annually. Invested at 10% for 25 years, approximately $180,000, from a calendar reminder and 3 days of patience. Let's close with James and Ryan. James is 37. He has $360,000 in investments, a paid-off car, a rice cooker, and an emergency fund he almost never thinks about. He's not wealthy yet, but at his current trajectory, by 55, he'll have somewhere between $1.3 and $1.6 million. He won't change industries. He won't find the thing. He'll just keep doing 10 unremarkable habits and let 18 more years of compounding handle the arithmetic. Ryan is 37. He has $9,400, a vehicle worth less than he owes on it, and a trading account down 31% from a tip that genuinely seemed sound at the time. He's not irresponsible. He's not a failure. He's just been consistently optimizing for how things feel right now, rather than what they accumulate to over time. And the gap between him and James, which started as nearly nothing, is now $350,000 and compounding wider every single month. Here's what none of these 10 habits are actually about. Not deprivation, not frugality for its own sake. They're about one specific kind of power that most people surrender so gradually they never notice it disappearing. The power to absorb what life delivers without it becoming a catastrophe. When something goes wrong for James, it's an inconvenience. When something goes wrong for Ryan, it's a crisis. The median retirement savings for Americans aged 55 to 64 is $185,000 against a perceived need of $1.26 million. That's not retirement. That's a runway. 2 years, maybe 3, before the numbers stop working. And it will happen to a lot of people who earned decent money for 35 years and genuinely cannot account for where it went. Ann Scheiber did this starting with $5,000 on an auditor's salary. Vern Boyle did it delivering mail and packing his lunch. Warren Buffett, worth over $100 billion, still lives in the same house he purchased in 1958 for $31,500. They didn't have better information. They didn't discover the thing. They just let boring run long enough to become extraordinary. The habits aren't the destination. They're what protects the actual destination, margin. The gap between what you earn and what you require. The option to decline something you hate. The ability to stop working before your body makes that decision for you. That's what's actually being constructed here. Not a number, not a portfolio balance. Options. And options are built. One automated transfer, one paid-off car, one rice cooker, Sunday at a time. Pick one habit from this list. Do it this week. The compound effect doesn't require perfection. It requires only that you stop waiting for the exciting version of this to arrive. It won't. This is the version, and it works. If this reframed how you think about any of it, hit like and subscribe. We do exactly this kind of breakdown every week. Tell me in the comments, which financial trap do you want me to run the numbers on next? I'll find a way to make it completely unglamorous and genuinely worth your time.